Chapter 2:11. Only then did the child realize that she had been swept into a certain someone's arms at lightning speed. How was that a layer of burning clouds on the horizon? It was simply Crown Prince Mo standing on the back of an ancient golden dragon that was enveloped in intense flames, standing against the wind. Wherever the dragon passed, the sky was scorched red, and the cadaveric crows were roasted until not a single feather was left. The Crown Prince's elegance was indeed incomparable. His ink-black hair was scattered by the wind, and his white robe embroidered with green bamboo stuck to his slender body. His sleeves billowed in the wind. However, darling Chow was a bit dumbfounded. She didn't see the Crown Prince's celestial beauty, but instead fixed her eyes on the huge dragon head that turned over. Dragons didn't seem to belong to the category of mystic beasts. She didn't know what to think when a creature she had only seen in history books suddenly turned to look at her with a pair of huge dragon eyes. "What did we agree on when we parted?" Crown Prince Lien tilted his head slightly and looked down at the child in his arms with a smile. "We didn't agree on anything." The child's blank expression quickly turned into a poker face as she nodded slightly. Although she didn't remember any damn agreement, it was fine. No matter what he said, she should be able to bluff her way out if she put on a serious face and nodded as if she understood whatever he said. The Crown Prince was still smiling, but the child inexplicably caught a hint of danger in his narrowed phoenix eyes. "Didn't I say that you can find me if you need anything?" "You did say that, but you're far away in the royal capital, Guanlon City. Can you appear in front of me when I summon you?" The child snorted. "Jojo, no matter what, you have to trust me, okay?" The Crown Prince held the child's face with one hand and looked at her intently with his phoenix eyes. "If I can say it, then I'm naturally confident that I can do it. Regardless of whether we're separated by thousands of mountains and tens of thousands of seas, as long as you call me, I'll appear by your side." There was a faint smile in his phoenix eyes as he murmured softly, "Remember to try in the future, okay?" The child's old face was a little uncomfortable. He hurriedly turned his head to look at Stay Up Late, who was hiding behind a fallen log. "You sent someone to keep an eye on me." The child tried to find something to talk about. He just wanted to change the topic, so he immediately retorted with a displeased expression. "If I hadn't met Stay Up Late on the way, how could I have found you so quickly? If I had come a quarter of an hour later, tell me, how would you have ended up today?" She knew how his heart had jumped when he saw the group of corpse crows swooping down towards her. "Didn't I tell you not to take the risk alone when it's dangerous?" "I'm not alone." "Humph, aren't there so many people around me? If they were useful, would you be in such a sorry state?" The Crown Prince signaled with his eyes. "It's a dark and windy night, so don't go out too much. You promised me back then, so why are you going back on your words now? Since when did I go out in the middle of the night?" "I'm not." He raised his head and looked at the dark sky. Chow Mu instantly had a feeling of, even the heavens aren't helping me. When did the sky turn completely dark without her noticing? So infuriating. "I don't want to talk to him anymore." Our dear Chow Mu simply pursed her lips and put on her signature stoic face. "Going back on your words after making a promise, shouldn't you be beaten?" "What? Everyone's watching you? You're going to slap my old face again." Without waiting for the Crown Prince to make a move, the child pounced on him and hugged his neck. She opened her mouth and bit down on his chin. It was so stiff and painful. Aber silently shed tears. Chapter 2:12. Ao Yi and the other youths from the night pavilion were petrified. The Crown Prince was clearly taken aback. His almond-shaped eyes moved to the little fellow's face, which was flushed red from anger, and the corners of his lips curled up. "Even a rabbit will bite when it's cornered, young man." "Tisk, you've learned to strike first," the Crown Prince said slowly as he raised his hand and smacked Chow Mu's butt. "He was so strong. Bastard, bastard. A scholar prefers death to humiliation. Today, I must bite him to death." The little fellow pounced forward. Her movements were truly breathtaking. She struggled in the Crown Prince's arms and opened her mouth to reveal 2 rows of white teeth. "You're clenching your teeth. Be good." The Crown Prince held her tightly in his arms and pressed down on her struggling limbs with one hand. He smiled and patted the child's head. "Don't make a fuss. Be careful not to break your teeth." Arbor was speechless. "Look, those ugly things are making my Jojo so angry that her face is red. Don't worry, I'll destroy them for you now and clean them all up, okay? I'm going to bite him to death. This bastard is twisting the truth. Is she angry because of the zombie hags? She's angry because of me, okay." Xiao Mu grabbed the youth's arm and was about to bite him. However, the youth stretched out his slender finger and pointed at the sky as usual. "Jojo, look." The child grabbed his arm and raised his head slightly, only to see clusters of flames flying towards the corpse crows hovering in the air like scattered meteors. So many flames. Clusters of flames danced and collided in the sky, emitting an even more dazzling red glow. The child had already forgotten to bite him. This was the second time she saw Crown Prince Lien control so many blazing red flames with such ease. The originally frightening flock of corpse crows quickly turned into ashes under the roasting of the raging flames. Not even a trace of flesh was left. Only a faint burnt smell entered everyone's nostrils. Su Shanshan and the rest were already stunned. From the moment the golden dragon appeared in the sky, they were already completely stunned and didn't know what to say. At this moment, there was only shock left in his heart, and a feeling of reverence towards the strong rose in his heart. "Are these the 5 spirits?" the child murmured, and his little hand let go of his arm. Mo Lien paused for a moment, then smiled. "It can be considered as the 5 spirits. Did your master from the Holy Water sect tell you about the origin energy of heaven and earth?" "Yes." The child nodded, then turned to look at Mo Lien. "Very powerful. Seeing that you've helped me deal with so many corpse crows, I'll write off the previous debt with you." Mo Lien couldn't help but chuckle. She raised her finger and poked the child's soft cheek. "It can't be written off. You were so disobedient and didn't abide by our previous agreement. Logically speaking, it's not enough for me to hit you." The child's face was painted green. Give him an inch and he wants a yard. How audacious. What was Jojo waiting for? Bite him to death. Bite him to death. Mo Lien suddenly hugged her and laughed heartily. Look, her little face that had been painted green had suddenly become lively after changing from the expressionless face she had at that time. Cute. Mo Lien pinched the child's face and jumped down from the golden dragon's back with the child in her arms. She landed in front of Situ Yi and the rest's protective barrier and met the eyes of the rank 3 mutated zombie that emitted a foul smell. With a kick, the bow and arrows on the ground landed in his hands. Chapter 213. Hugging the child, Mo Lien reached out to hold the child's soft hand and pulled the bowstring together. She chuckled softly and murmured, "Jojo, if you inject mystic energy into a normal bow and arrow, although it's not enough to unleash the power of a mystic weapon, the result is quite impressive." Everyone simultaneously stared at the arrow that shot out like a shooting star towards the level 3 zombie. Only Arbor realized how strong the youth's infusion of energy was. That feeling of being suddenly injected with super powerful energy and the strength of her short arm exploding. Whoosh. The arrow pierced through the level 3 zombie's head. Without any suspense, the unlucky level 3 zombie was sent flying by the arrow. It maintained a stiff posture as it retreated with the arrow and its body. It was firmly pinned to a wooden stake and could no longer move. Absolute silence reigned over the scene. What a strong youth! An ordinary arrow was able to kill a level 3 mutated zombie puppet that had given everyone a headache. Was this the difference between a genius and a normal person? Until Duan Yu harumphed and disdainfully pursed his lips. Pretentious. What pretentious? In terms of looks, this young master is not inferior to you. Humph. Jojo, let's get down. Duan Yu fearlessly extended his hand towards the Crown Prince and met the Crown Prince's phoenix eyes, completely ignoring the cold glint in them. Humph. You think I'm scared of you? Their gazes collided, and it was as if a flaming shooting star streaked across the sky. Arbor was expressionless, but in reality, she was roaring in her mind. What are you doing, Chocho? Such rich energy. It's like I'm soaking in a sacred spring. Oh, hee, so comfortable, ha 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 ha. Ah. Oh, master, let's absorb more, awe. Oh. Why don't you go to heaven with so many onomatopoeia? The mental tree had gone crazy. Arbor pressed her swelling head. She really wanted to stuff its mouth with something. Emolienne lowered her head slightly, and her gaze landed on the soft emerald branch that was secretly wrapped around one of his wrists. It was only a small section, so she definitely wouldn't see it if she didn't look closely at his wrist. It seemed like his Jojo had a lot of secrets. Emolienne smiled and walked forward with Arbor in her arms, avoiding everyone's gaze. He didn't show the slightest bit of displeasure because the power in his body was being absorbed by some stupid tree. Oh. If I can obtain the blood from this young man's heart, master, I will be able to smoothly integrate the paradise into the star field. Arbor's expression changed. This damn tree had gone crazy. Things were getting out of hand. Cho. Xiao Mu's icy small claw abruptly hammered Emolienne's wrist as she mentally issued a strict order. Go back. Right now. Woo. Sensing its little master's anger, the tree didn't dare to act rashly. It quickly retracted its branch and whispered, I really only need 1 drop. Nonsense. You're not allowed to bring it up again. A drop of blood from the tip of the heart. How much energy did it consume? How dare it make such a request? He had to beat it to death. I'll give you all the profound energy in the paradise. In the future, I'll help you find more profound energy to replenish. But you're not allowed to casually absorb the power in other people's bodies, unless I agree. You can't take away the fruits of other people's hard work. Do you understand? If you can't do it, don't follow me. It didn't want anyone's power. It was just that the Crown Prince's power was rich and powerful, so it really attracted the tree. If it was anyone else's, it wouldn't even be interested. Chapter 2:14. The sapling sobbed. How would it dare to refute its little master's stern admonishment? It quickly fawned over her. MHM, I know. Chocho will be obedient. Chocho, we will become stronger in the future. Arbor's gaze was resolute as he looked ahead. Rely on ourselves. What is it? Emolienne looked down at the slender branches that swiftly receded and disappeared. She then looked at the child's taut face. It's fine, it can't absorb much. You're still indulging it. The sapling immediately became agitated. Master, the youth said it's fine, why? Ha, you're so agitated that you stutter. Shut up and go back to cultivating. Arbor ignored this cheating tree. Boo-hoo, youth, goodbye. If there's a chance next time, Arbor directly blocked its nagging. You. Arbor looked up at him. Are you all right? That tree of mine is too insensible. It's fine, it's really fine. Emolienne smiled and patted the little one's head. Don't worry about me. Xiao Mu flew into a rage out of humiliation and immediately kicked him with her short leg. I'm not worried. Heh. The Crown Prince couldn't help but laugh. With a wave of his hand, all the wooden shards that had collapsed on the ground gently floated up. They were instantly flattened to the sides by a mighty force. A cave entrance was revealed under the sealed wooden shed. Granary? Arbor's eyes brightened. It should be. The Crown Prince nodded with a smile. Let's go down and take a look. Duan Yu and the others all ran to the cave entrance, but Emolienne left them behind with an indifferent, "You guys stay up here." There were 4 underground granaries built below, and they were filled to the brim with grains, beans, and potatoes. Arbor waved his hand and took out 50 storage talismans in front of the Crown Prince, filling them to the brim. As a result, every granary lost exactly a quarter of its food supply. The Crown Prince couldn't help but smile. If it were anyone else, their jaws would definitely drop to the ground for this little one to casually take out 50 storage talismans. For you. Darling Chow calmly took back all the full storage talismans, then took out 20 empty storage talismans and placed them in the Crown Prince's hand. Hush money. The Crown Prince almost laughed out loud. He naturally reached out to take the storage talisman from her and praised, "My Jojo is really amazing." Would those arrogant talisman masters of Guanlon City die of shame if they saw the little fellow take out a handful of talismans? He wondered if those idiots could even produce 10 talismans in a month. Because talismans were rare, there were even fewer of them on the market. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was difficult to obtain a talisman even with 1,000 gold taels. Go ahead and decorate. Call them in when you're done. The little fellow raised her hand and patted him on the shoulder. She had an expression that said, "We're together. If you don't take some, I won't be at ease." All right. Emo Lien nodded. She also took some food from each granary and used her blood to open a talisman to take them away. Aber, he thought that the nouveau riche crown prince would be humble and say, "Leave it to my people." But he didn't. However, the youth's straightforwardness made Aber admire him. She hated people who were hypocritical and coy. After the two finished packing and left the underground granary, they said to everyone, "There's a lot of food down there." Everyone cheered, finally feeling that this trip was not in vain. In the end, Prince Emo decided to take away the remaining half of the food and send a few brats from the night pavilion to wait here for the South Camp's rescue team. When the time came, they would transport the food back to the capital together. The food reserves here exceeded City Lord Gu's expectations. Even if they took away so much, the remaining food was enough to feed the city's people for 4 months. Aber and the others' trip was simply a bountiful harvest. Chapter 2:15. After a night's rest, they set off on their return journey the next day. The return journey was a bit slow with food, but thankfully, it was safe and they did not encounter any zombies. Aber returned home in the evening. Her expression involuntarily relaxed as soon as she entered, and she softly called out, "Mother, I'm back." "Ah, Jojo's back," a woman's gentle voice rang out. This was no different from a bolt from the blue to Aba's ears. She froze on the spot and coldly turned her gaze toward the woman who spoke. When Rowan was standing quietly beside her grandmother in her courtyard. She was wearing a captivating red robe with a cyan floral pleated skirt. She was holding a pot of stew and looking at her with a smile. Fragmented images flashed past Aba's eyes. When Rowan was just like the soft and gentle when Rowan in front of her as she complained tearfully to her father, "Xiao San is too hard to teach. Stepmother is in a difficult position. If I'm too strict, people will gossip. If I'm not strict, he'll go out and cause trouble again like today. I really don't know how to teach him." Her younger brother, whom her mother risked her life to give birth to, was led astray by this woman for no reason. In the end, he muddle-headedly died in an inexplicable love affair. Her younger brother was only 16 when he died. A young life fell just like that. Emo Lien, who had walked in with her, could most clearly sense the change in Xiao Mu's aura. This little fellow was fine just a moment ago, but the weather changed in an instant, and her vicious aura soared. At this moment, her eyes were icy, and her wooden and cold expression was just like when they met for the first time and she was ruthlessly smashing Wu Yenjin with a rock. Prince Mo's phoenix eyes narrowed dangerously, and he followed Xiao Mu's bone-chilling gaze to the uneasy and slightly terrified woman standing by the flower bed. "Why are you here?" Duan Yu had just stepped into this small courtyard when he heard little Jojo's interrogative voice. He was so nervous that he almost blurted out, I came to find you." Then, he realized that he had misunderstood. Little Jojo wasn't dissing him. She was dissing someone else. Scram! Aber yelled at Wan Rowan as he moved to the side to make way for her. Wan Rowan was so nervous that she almost dropped the pot of stew she was holding in her arms. She knelt down in front of Wang Nei with a plop and her delicate body trembled. 2 streams of tears fell down her cheeks. "Aunt!" The old lady was so angry that her whole body trembled. She slammed the stone table. You. How unruly. This is your aunt when you. She was so angry that she couldn't speak coherently. Aba's eyes were like poisonous arrows. Chong Zai. Steward Chong Zai stumbled over, his face pale with fright as he rolled on the ground. Miss Xiao Xiao. What did I say when I left this house? How dare you let anyone in? Do you still have any respect for this little master of yours? Aba's eyes widened, and he clenched his fists. His whole body was trembling as he roared at Chong Zai. You also pack up your things and scram today. Immediately. Immediately. Scram. Duan Yu was so frightened that he kept quiet out of fear, not daring to make a sound. It was quite scary when the adorable little Jojo was angry. That fury seemed to have substance, and whoever was burned by it would be unlucky. No matter how silly he was, he did not dare to go over and provoke bad luck at this time. Chong Zai kowtowed like he was pounding garlic and said, Xiao Xiao master, Chong Zai was wrong. Chong Zai won't dare to do it again in the future. Please give this old servant a chance, little master. Elderly Lady Chow was so angry that her whole body went limp on the round-backed chair. She pointed at the enraged Aba with a trembling finger. Chapter 216. Kick this woman out immediately. Don't let any random people step into my courtyard in the future. Aba said sternly. Why yes, little master. Yes. Chong Zai was truly scared silly. This little master's style of telling people to scram at the slightest disagreement was truly frightening. There were not many masters in the Chow family, and they were all amiable. It was rare to encounter such a good master. Even the servants' meals were so good, so how could he possibly want to leave? In the current world, where could a powerless person like him go even if he scrammed out of the Chow family? Chong Zai flopped in front of Wen Rawan and said coldly, Miss Wan please. Aunt. A trace of panic appeared on Wen Rawan's face. She truly did not expect that D*MN girl Auber would have such a strong reaction to her appearance. Wen Rawan was filled with hatred. She knelt on the ground and shuffled a few steps before sobbing beside elderly Lady Chow's legs. Aunt. She did not want to leave this place. She had racked her brains to finally move into the Chow estate yesterday. The living conditions of the Chow estate truly moved her. She was no longer willing to return to that shed area filled with pigs, cows, and sheep. You're too impudent and rude. Elderly Lady Chow struggled to get up from the round-backed chair. I thought I made it very clear to grandmother that day. Auber stared at elderly Lady Chow with eyes that could shatter ice shards. If grandmother doesn't understand, I don't mind repeating myself. If grandmother wants to live with your niece, I'll immediately send someone to escort you to the Western District. Chong Zai, invite Mr. Zhang over. Elderly Lady Chow instantly froze. Auber's furious expression frightened elderly Lady Chow. She also did not expect Rawan to be so disrespectful to the little girl. She did not even bother to be polite and directly ordered someone to chase Wen Rawan away. Chow Chow is back? What's wrong? Her parents and second uncle, who had rushed over after hearing the commotion, looked at the scene in astonishment. Wen Rawan was gentle and soft, and even her voice was soft. They did not know why she had a conflict with Jojo. Why aren't you chasing her out? If she doesn't leave, you leave. Auber angrily reprimanded with an unyielding attitude. Chong Zai got up and tugged at Wen Rawan. I've offended Miss Wan. Impudent, too impudent. Granny Chow was so angry that her limbs were trembling. Ah, big brother Chow, second brother Chow, sister Zichin. Wen Rawan trembled from anger and fear. She didn't expect that D*MN girl Auber to be so determined to kick her out. She struggled with all her might and shook off Chong Zai's arm. She scrambled over to Wei Zichin's side and hugged her leg as she cried, Sister Zichin, save me, save me. Jojo, child, what's wrong with you? Wei Zichin was astonished. She had never seen her daughter so angry before. She really did not understand how Wen Rawan was not to her liking. It's not appropriate for your Aunt Wan to live alone in the shack area. She managed to escape with much difficulty yesterday and was almost. She couldn't listen to a single word of her father's nagging. She only knew that no one could understand the pain in her heart. No one knew. No one. Everyone felt that when Rowan was innocent and stood against her. Everyone felt that she was arrogant and cold despite her young age. Everyone looked at her with incomprehensible gazes. Fighting alone was truly too tiring and too lonely. Suddenly, a pair of hands scooped Xiao Mu up and silently pried off her pinky fingers, which had sunk into her palms to the point of bleeding. Chapter 217. Be good. You don't have to deal with her directly even if you want to, Emolienne whispered into Qiao Ran's ear while carrying her. He nodded at his parents in Auber very naturally and left with Qiao Ran. Qiao Zhongbang and his wife took a while to react. That youth with an extraordinary bearing and peerlessly handsome face was. He actually carried away his daughter right in front of their eyes. His movements looked practiced and natural, so it wasn't his first time, right? One Rowan, who was kneeling in front of Wei Ziqin, felt aggrieved and humiliated. However, all her negative emotions instantly flew away when she met the child's chilling gaze. All that was left was a heart full of coldness and fear. Those were a pair of eerie and indifferent eyes. The child was lying on Prince Mo's shoulder. Her dark eyes were as cold as the spring in the depths of the realm of innocence, devoid of any signs of life. You will die. She didn't know why, but a cold and magnetic voice seemed to explode in her mind, and she suddenly swayed a few times from the impact. Her eyes widened, and when Rowan felt her vision darken, she suddenly fainted and fell to the ground. Hello, uncle, auntie. Duan Yu chuckled and walked up to greet Qiao Zhongbang and the others. I'm Jojo's good friend, Duan Yu. You can call me Aiwei. Wei Ziqin and the others nodded with a smile when they saw this handsome youth enthusiastically greeting them. Even Qiao Zhongbang, who wanted to move when Rowan, stopped and exchanged a few words with the youth. Duan Yu said as if he was familiar with them, although I don't know who this woman is, I'm pretty sure that Jojo is Jojo. Based on my understanding of little Jojo, she won't fly into a rage for no reason. I feel that there must be a reason for everything. What do you think? Wei Ziqin immediately nodded. Although she also felt that her daughter's rage came extremely strangely and suddenly, she believed in her daughter. This child had been sensible since she was young and always thought of her family. Even when facing a beggar, she was polite and distant. How could she treat one Rowan like this? Qiao Zhongbang smacked his lips and exchanged glances with second Uncle Qiao. This time, he didn't know whether he should go and help one Rowan, who was lying on the ground. I'm going to see my daughter. Wei Ziqin left in a hurry. After Crown Prince Mo carried darling Qiao back to her boudoir, he naturally sat down next to the window with her in his arms. He placed the child on his lap and stared at her expressionless face. She didn't say anything, so he accompanied her in silence. After an unknown amount of time, the child's body moved slightly. He lowered his head and said in a muffled voice, You, why are you talking to me? I am a cold and temperamental man. Nonsense. Prince Mo reached out and grabbed her little face. Come, look at me. The little stoic glared at him with an icy expression for quite a while, but her heart warmed slightly. Emolienne smiled and asked in a low voice, Did you see anything? You're beautiful. You're one of the most beautiful people I've ever seen, the child answered seriously. Emolienne, why did he feel like he didn't know whether to laugh or cry? And what the heck was one of the most? Who was the second or third? Was it Duan Yu? He simply lifted her higher and pressed his forehead against hers as he chuckled softly. Not that. I'm asking if you saw anything in my eyes. Eyes? The stoic child nodded. They're even more beautiful than Duan Yu's. Emolienne, fine, he should be happy. In this little fellow's eyes, he was very good-looking. Hui Feng, who was hiding in the shadows, couldn't help but facepalm. How could His Highness the Crown Prince and the child's conversation be so funny? Chapter 218. I want you to see that trust is written all over my eyes." Prince Emo didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He reached out to hold her little face. "No matter what you do, I'll believe you. No matter what you want to do, I'll stand by your side," Emolien said softly as he pressed against her little head. "So, you're not alone. Next time, don't show that 'I'm so lonely' expression, because it hurts my heart to see it. I want her to die." The child pursed her lips and subconsciously clenched her fists. "My mother will give birth in 2 months at most. I can't let her live past these 2 months." Emolien loosened her fingers one by one, took out a bottle of top-quality medicinal powder, and applied it on the tiny wounds on her palms. 3 days. The child looked up at Emolien with a trace of unconcealable shock in her eyes. "Shijiao City's Thousand Flower Festival is in 2 days. This time, City Lord Gu received so much food, she'll definitely—" Emolien whispered into her ear. The child stared at him blankly. Wasn't this young and handsome crown prince treating her too well? She had a strange feeling in her heart. She had never seen someone so obedient to her in her 2 lifetimes. Even that pervert who doted on her so much in her previous life only doted on her like she was a small animal. He didn't trust or respect her at all. Was this what friends were like? They fought zombies together, collected food together, and now they were killing a person together. It probably wasn't anything to be surprised about. "Don't you think I'm cruel, merciless, and vicious?" Emolien reached out to cover her little mouth and leaned close to her face. "You're my Jojo. You'll always be the best." Abba blinked and thought, "I also think I'm not bad." "Jojo, can mother come in?" Wei Ziqin was standing outside the door. When she heard the whispers coming from inside the room, she was somewhat dumbfounded. Although her daughter was still young and there weren't that many rules between men and women, why did she feel like she had inexplicably gained a son-in-law when this youth directly entered her room? No, how old was her Jojo? The door opened, and a young man in a white robe fluttered like a cloud. He bowed to her and said politely, "Auntie, sorry to disturb you. My name is Emolien, Jojo's best friend." "Ah, Xiaomo, who wouldn't like such a handsome and gentle boy?" Wei Ziqin immediately smiled. Classmate Xiaomo fiercely increased his presence and favorability in front of his future mother-in-law. After chatting for a while, Wei Ziqin almost forgot about the matter of seeing her daughter. Abba was a little stunned. He looked speechlessly at the 2 people who were chatting at the door. It was Prince Emo who reminded Wei Ziqin to give some space to the mother and daughter. Only then did Wei Ziqin send him off with a smile. She held Jojo's hand as soon as she entered the house and showered him with praises. "I don't know which family's son is from. He's young and elegant. He's really well raised." Looking at her daughter's confused face, Wei Ziqin remembered the important matter. "Good child, mother didn't understand what happened just now. Can you tell mother about it? Mother knows that my daughter isn't such a rude person. Something must have happened." "Mother." Abba's eyes stung. She buried her head in Wei Ziqin's arms. "I'm sorry, Mother. Your daughter embarrassed you just now." Although she knew why she was angry, her mother and the others didn't know. Perhaps in their eyes, it was really a child's willful and reckless nonsense. They didn't know what happened in their previous lives. What reason did she have to blame someone who didn't know anything? How could that be? "You're such a silly child." Wei Ziqin hugged her daughter. "You're so worried at such a young age." Chapter 219. Wei Ziqin looked at her daughter and pulled her small hand. "Actually, I was the one who brought your auntie Wen back. I bumped into her on the street when I went out yesterday. She was being chased and bullied by 2 bullies in West City and was in a very sorry state," Wei Ziqin said. Mother thought that it must be quite difficult for a girl like her to be alone. She has a soft personality and doesn't even dare to speak loudly. At that time, she was in tears and kept begging me to take her in, so Mother's heart softened. "Is it because Mother didn't handle this properly?" "Jojo, what happened just now?" Why did you react so strongly? Arbor buried her head in her mother's embrace and shook her head. She said in a muffled voice, "Mother, it's nothing. I just don't like outsiders coming into our family." Silly girl. Mother wants you to be happy. Since you don't like Rowan. Wei Ziqin smiled and hugged her daughter while patting her back. Xiao Mu could no longer hear what Rowan said, and she gradually sank into her own thoughts. In reality, she originally did not want to deal with Rowan, so Xiao Mu ignored this woman when they met in front of the city lord's estate. As long as Rowan obediently stayed far away from the Qiao family, she could not be bothered to waste energy on such a small character and did not mind letting this little white flower go. But now, it seemed that the gears of fate would never stop turning. This one Rowan had quietly gotten close to their home again and insisted on making her presence known. Since when Rowan insisted on asking for a beating, then don't blame her for being vicious and merciless. This woman would not live for more than 3 days anyway. Arbor did not attend dinner with the excuse that she was not feeling well. She also did not bother to look at that pretentious little white flower. No matter how much she tried to make her presence known, she was already a dead person. There was no need to argue with her. On the other hand, when Xiao Lin heard that her older sister had returned, she kept clamoring to have dinner with her older sister and was very lively. Wei Ziqin had no choice but to send her younger daughter to Arbor. The next day, Arbor received an invitation to the City Lord's mansion's banquet and gladly accepted it. City Lord Gu was exceptionally happy with the bountiful harvest from this trip to Qinghe Town. Especially since His Highness the Crown Prince was willing to honor him with his presence at the banquet, City Lord Gu was so excited that he spoke incoherently the entire night. All the survivors of the Qinghe Town operation attended this banquet. However, Arbor didn't see Lu Yexin at the banquet. She didn't ask about it either. After all, Lu Yexin was just a passerby who had nothing to do with her. Halfway through the banquet, the Crown Prince left with Xiao Mu in his arms. City Lord Gu hurriedly followed after them. Everything is in the warehouse on the east side. Please follow me, Your Highness. City Lord Gu said respectfully. Hidden Flower and He Tian followed and looked at each other. His Highness really cares a lot about this little girl. Gu Qingfeng ordered someone to open the storeroom. The little girl's eyes lit up when she saw the supplies piled up inside. Previously, they had used up more than half of their bows and arrows in Qinghe Town. Now, there were twice as many weapons in the storehouse. It was just the right time to replenish their previous consumption. The Crown Prince turned to Gu Qingfeng and said, "You can leave first." Gu Qingfeng repeatedly agreed. He was extremely glad that he had befriended this little ancestor. After bowing, Gu Qingfeng said to Xiao Mu with a smile before leaving, "Miss Qiao's reward for this trip will be sent to your residence tomorrow. Your Highness, this humble subject will take his leave first." Chapter 220. The Crown Prince only put down our dear Arbor after everyone retreated and only the two of them remained. Our dear Xiao Mu pattered to the pile of items and browsed through them in a good mood. Other than weapons, there were also many household items and ladies' silks and satins. There were also many small snacks like candied fruits, sweets, pastries, and so on. It was perfect to coax a foodie. It was simply perfect. Arbor chatted with the sapling for a bit before taking out the heart of paradise and putting everything inside. When she looked again, the paradise was nearly stuffed to the brim. There were so many things that it made her feel at ease. The little stoic stiffly pulled out a unique smile, which made a certain Crown Prince unable to restrain a smile. "Master!" A white figure flashed, and the little white squirrel pounced out of the paradise and sprawled on Arbor's small face. She was so angry that she spat out a mouthful of fur several times. After plucking the little white squirrel from her face, Arbor unceremoniously flung it outside. Screech! The little white squirrel nimbly somersaulted in midair, but before it could pounce back to its little master's side, a certain Crown Prince reached out and grabbed it. His Highness the Crown Prince swayed a certain little squirrel as his phoenix eyes narrowed meaningfully. This seemingly ordinary little critter seemed to be Screech, 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 screech. The little white squirrel humanely hugged its head with its paws and curled up into a ball. Master, there's a terrifying youth here who wants to attack Chirpy. The Crown Prince. His cries were so mournful that those who didn't know would think he had done something deranged. The child pattered to the Crown Prince's side and raised her small hand. His Highness the Crown Prince naturally interpreted it as the child wanting a hug, so he bent down slightly and picked her up. Aber. Something felt off. Master. The little white squirrel immediately jumped into her arms and rolled around. Give me 10 pieces of high-grade magnetite. The child poked the white squirrel's round body. The little white squirrel responded and jumped into the paradise, quickly carrying 10 mystic stones out. The child casually put away the heart of paradise. After skinning off the skins of the 10 pieces of magnetite, the little critter chirped twice at Arbor. The Crown Prince stared blankly until the child pushed all the magnetite into his arms. Only then did he regain his senses. His exquisite features seemed to be glowing as he smiled and said, "They're all for me?" The child nodded expressionlessly. "Jojo, you're the best." Prince smiled as he approached her. It seemed a little too close. Arbor's eyes widened as he watched the Crown Prince's handsome face magnify in front of him. Until a soft kiss landed on her forehead. Like a gentle breeze, it slowly swept over. A gift for Jojo in return. The Crown Prince said with a serious face. Without waiting for the child to react, he carried the silly little thing and strode out of the storeroom. It seemed that something was very wrong. These words floated in Arbor's mind. He gave her a bunch of things, and she gave him high-grade magnetite in return. That's strange. Aren't they even now? Then, he gave her a gift in return. Wasn't he giving her too much in return? The youth was at a disadvantage. Xiao Mu thought for a moment, then took out a few storage talismans from her pocket and stuffed them into his hands. Use them. Hidden Flower, who was standing by the door, almost dropped his jaw. Why did he feel that the child's tone was so generous? The strangest thing was that his master actually kissed the little fellow's forehead repeatedly as if no one else was around. He even asked with a serious face, "Is this enough for a gift in return?" The child was dumbfounded. They were even again. His Highness was so shameless. Hidden Flower raised his hand to rub his nose, although he didn't know what the two were doing inside. But looking at the child's dumbfounded expression, she must have been black-bellied by His Highness. Chapter 221. When the two returned to the banquet, the Crown Prince exchanged some pleasantries with the city lord. Gu Qingfeng had already received his subordinate's report that the entire storeroom had been emptied in an instant. He revered the little girl even more, thinking that the little girl's inner world must be extraordinary, so Daybreak Sex Li Xiang was the first to suffer when he wanted to spy on the little girl. Ske, I have to be more careful in the future and restrain my subordinates to not easily offend the little girl. Gu Qingfeng then mentioned the 1,000 Flower Festival the day after tomorrow. It would be held from noon until night. Ever since the zombie disaster, the city hadn't held a large-scale entertainment event for the public for a long time, so City Lord Gu attached great importance to this event. After the 1,000 Flower Festival's activities were arranged, the entire Shijiu city became lively. In addition, everyone heard that the top 3 winners of the 1,000 Flower Festival would receive 50 caddies, and 20 caddies of grain, so everyone became excited. Every household moved their flowers to the plaza and registered to participate in this competition. Each of them rubbed their fists and rushed toward the grain. In the past, the first-place winner of the 1,000 Flower Festival would be rewarded with 100 gold taels. Even so, those wealthy households were too lazy to participate. Normally, it was the small households that worked hard to participate in the competition and strive for 100 gold taels. But now, even the rich families in the city had all taken action. They took out the most expensive flowers in their homes and carried them to the square to register. It was clear that in this era, gold taels and silver taels were not even half as precious as grain. For the citywide event, the city lord also specially ordered that the poor people in the eastern and western districts could also come to the middle district to watch. However, these poor people had to go through a certain inspection before entering the Middle District and were not allowed to bring any sharp weapons with them. As a result, everyone in Shijo City, from 80-year-old ladies to 7- and 8-year-old children, talked about the Thousand Flower Festival enthusiastically. Their close friends formed groups of 3 to 5 and discussed how to travel together on that day. At dinner, Aber finally showed up, making Qiao Zhongbang and his wife very happy. When the little white flower saw her, she immediately put down the chopsticks in her hand and stood up aggrievedly to give up her seat. With a submissive expression, she went to elderly Lady Qiao's side and stood next to her like a little daughter-in-law who couldn't be shown in public. Aber didn't even bother to look at this white flower out of the corner of his eye. He greeted his parents and second uncle and sat down to eat. Under Xiaoyao's, "Young miss, try this one, try that one." She continued to serve the dishes and enjoyed a decent dinner. When Rowan furtively glanced at the child, a hint of anger flowing through her eyes. There was such a sumptuous spread of food on the table, and this family was eating happily, completely ignoring her. Other than her aunt, who felt sorry for her and took her hand to ask her to sit down and eat together, the others treated her as if she was invisible and ignored her. Even Wei Ziqin, who had been very nice to her in the beginning, had become much colder to her these 2 days. She basically didn't talk to her much, so she didn't even know where to start. It was simply depressing. She still remembered the first day she came to the Qiao family. This family was very friendly to her, but everything changed drastically ever since that little B***TCH Aber returned. Elderly Lady Qiao had Sun Yang, who was serving beside her, add a stool for when Rowan, and when Rowan barely sat down. Aber put down the small bowl in his hand and expressionlessly said, "I'm full. Father, mother, daughter will take her leave first." Everyone. Her meaning couldn't be more obvious. She clearly didn't want to see her. Chapter 222. Jojo. When Rowan hastily stood up and smiled awkwardly at Aber. I heard the Thousand Flower Festival will be held in the city tomorrow." When Rowan stuttered when she met the child's dark eyes at first. However, after she calmed her breathing and put on a fake smile, she spoke more fluently. The children have been in Shijo City for so long, but we haven't taken a proper look around yet. How about we go to the plaza in the city tomorrow as a family to take a look at this grand occasion? Who's a family with you?" Aber's face darkened. What a thick-skinned person. Do you think you'll have a chance to join our family in this lifetime? When Rowan shuddered, and her face alternated between green and white. She was put on the spot. Cough cough. There should be more people on the streets tomorrow. Xiao Lin is still young, so it's not appropriate for her to go out and be so crowded. Second uncle hastily smoothed things over with a smile. "I think we should just forget about this." Unexpectedly, his little niece was curious and asked incoherently, "Mother, there are good things about the Thousand Flower Festival." Just like that, the tense atmosphere was disrupted by Xiao Lin's childish words. Aber's tense face relaxed slightly, and she turned her head to look at her younger sister in amusement. "Yes, there are many good things." Xiao Lin's eyes suddenly lit up. "Sister, I want good things." "Good things." Wei Ziqin was amused by the sisters' conversation. Second Uncle Qiao and Qiao Zhongbang's mouths could not help but twitch. This treasure had never been short of food for her during this period of time. The snacks and pastries were endless, and her life was even more nourishing and happy than before. Her little face was round and full, and she was thinking about this time all day long. Old Madame Fu coughed and tried to put in a good word for her niece. "Then you youngsters should go and play together. Ziqin's belly is big, so she'll stay at home to take care of herself. Rowan, take the children out and be careful on the road." "Yes, old madam." When Rowan's eyes flickered with excitement. She did not believe it. If he gave her a chance to spend more time with the children, she wouldn't be able to trick that damned girl Aber to his side. Wasn't he just a little kid? How many thoughts could he have? When the time came, she would just have to use a little trick too. Aber looked meaningfully at Wen Rowan before picking up Xiao Liner and turning to leave. He did not refute old Madame Wen's words. Old Madame Fu sighed in relief when she saw that when Rowan was cold but did not embarrass her on the spot. She even secretly gave Rowan a look. When Rowan nodded at old Madame, her eyes saying, "Don't worry, old Madame. I'll definitely take this opportunity to get closer to these children." How could she have known that Auber had pretended to agree to go out with her just to take her life? Because it's not appropriate to kill someone at home. The 10,000 Flower Festival was about to begin. Suddenly, Auber stopped in his tracks. His cold eyes shot to the top of the wall. With a turn of his hand, he stuffed Xiao Lin into Xiao Hu's hands. "Brother Xiao Hu, bring little sister back. I'm going out for a bit." Xiao Hu was just excitedly talking about going to the 10,000 Flower Festival tomorrow when he raised his hand to catch Xiao Lin. In the blink of an eye, he saw his eldest sister jump over the wall as fast as lightning, and her small figure suddenly disappeared into the pitch-black night. His heart skipped a beat, and he hastily called out, Xiao Yao, hurry and tell Daddy." "Don't worry, little young master. Miss has someone following her. She'll be fine." Xiao Yao hastily dissuaded the flustered youth. "Xiao Yao will send you two back to your rooms first." Meanwhile, Auber jumped over the wall and shot forward like a catapult, closely following a shadow elongated by the moonlight. Chapter 223. Master, Miss has already given chase, and Eri has also followed. Huifeng stood solemnly in front of a carriage at the corner of the street and cupped his hands. The Crown Prince, who was resting with his eyes closed inside the carriage, slightly opened his phoenix eyes when he heard this. The carriage's exterior looked unremarkable, but the interior was actually filled with soft cushions, and every inch of the interior was wrapped in silk. The short table was delicately painted with green bamboo, and a large red brocade box was placed on top of it, right next to the Crown Prince's left. Huifeng continued, "That person was discovered as soon as he jumped onto Mrs. Wall, so he didn't have time to do anything. He was chased by Miss until he jumped over the wall and left in a sorry state like a stray dog." Teske. The Crown Prince chuckled disdainfully. Huiyan's lackeys were truly unreliable. "Let's go and take a look. Let's just treat them as appetizers for tomorrow's Thousand Blossom Festival celebration. If Jojo wins, I'll give this to her as a reward." The Crown Prince's fingers lightly stroked the large red brocade box next to him. This item had always been under He Tion's care, but since the Crown Prince was here in person, it was more appropriate for his master to personally give it to the little girl. He Tion was quite tactful. Hidden Flower followed beside the carriage the entire way and straightened out the creases on his sleeves. He couldn't help but chuckle. "Then what if she loses?" Huifeng glanced at him. "Does this fool know that trouble comes from careless talk? If she loses, I'll sell you." An exquisite kettle was thrown out of the carriage and smashed directly at Hidden Flower's head. Hidden Flower dodged to the side with a sullen face. So infuriating. Master is so unreasonable and randomly insults people. I beg for an explanation. At this time, the man being chased by Auber like a stray dog was already inexplicably sweating on his forehead. He simply didn't dare to believe that a level 4 mystic cultivator like him would be discovered the moment he stepped onto the other party's wall. This child was too strange. That speed of pursuit simply made him feel inexplicably apprehensive. Could it be that the person he encountered now was a tough nut to crack? The man swiftly ran toward the rendezvous point. "Damn little brat, since you want to follow me, then keep following me. Let's see how you'll die without a burial place then." Suddenly, a strong gust of wind hit his back. The man turned his head around in shock and saw that a small stoic face had already appeared behind him. She was holding a ferule as black as ink, and she swung it at his back without any explanation. Before the ferule arrived, a strong gust of wind had already arrived. Profound energy suddenly exploded on his back, causing him to stagger 2 or 3 steps forward in a sorry state. Before he could even open his mouth to make a sound, a terrifying little foot carrying profound energy suddenly kicked him in the back. "Pooh!" The man's old face stiffened. As he rushed forward, he spat out a mouthful of old blood. He felt as if his internal organs had been turned around in his body. Every part of his body was in pain. What a scary girl. I have to run. Sensing the approaching aura of death, the man didn't dare to stay any longer. He ran forward with all his might. Just now, he had already mobilized all the profound energy in his body to block that wretched girl's attack. But he was still injured. What did this mean? The man's eyes widened. This wretched girl's cultivation was higher than his. Why was this so? How old was she? Bang! Auber swung her ferrule again in pursuit, but it missed. A beam of light formed by profound energy fiercely smashed several inches behind the man's heel, scaring him so much that his old face turned pale. He suddenly staggered and actually ran away at an extraordinary speed. The child wrinkled her brows and sniffed. She followed that man out of the city and ran toward the ruined western part of the city. Chapter 224. D*****, girl. There's a path to heaven, but you don't want to take it. Let's see how fierce you'll be in a while. The man forced a smile and suddenly stopped and turned around. Auber also stopped and turned her head to look at the two brawny men that appeared from the shadows. D****, girl, it's not too late to beg for mercy now. From his appearance, the person who spoke looked like an ordinary farmer. His face was dark, and he looked honest and considerate. Xiao Mu coldly swept her gaze over the three people's faces in succession. Who sent you here? The dark-skinned man sneered. Go ask at King of Hell's Hall. Two immobilization talismans suddenly floated into the air and suddenly split open when they hit two of the men. Before those two idiots could figure out what was going on, they were immediately immobilized on the spot, dumbstruck. Before they could react, Auber turned around and charged at the dark-skinned man. You're courting death, the man roared, a trace of surprise flashing through his heart. This child actually had an immobilization talisman on her? According to their open and covert investigations over the past few days, they were very clear that this child was only a child from an ordinary family, but for some reason, His Highness favored her. Thinking of the mission the commandery princess assigned, the dark-skinned man, Nian Kuei, gritted his teeth and untied his weapon from his back. It was an iron-spiked club with provocative spikes that sparkled under the moonlight. D****, girl, don't think that you're amazing just because you're a mystic cultivator. Your body isn't even enough to fill the gaps between my teeth, Nian Kuei shouted and swung his spiked club at Auber's head. When did I say that mystic cultivators are amazing? Auber sneered. Her tiny body suddenly rose into the air, and with a light tap of her toes, she flipped over the man's head in an instant. She nimbly flipped her small body in the air and suddenly stomped her two short legs on Nian Kuei's back with a heavy back strike. With the crisp sound of bones, Nian Kuei immediately howled and staggered forward, falling to the ground and kneeling like a toad. He lay on the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. However, it's more than enough to deal with you alone. The little girl waved her hand, and the ferrule emitted an ink-colored brilliance, directly smashing the mace in the brawny man's hand into pieces. Nian Kuei was shocked as he held a small part of the end of the club. With an aghast expression, he loosened his grip. That half-dead stick fell to the ground with a thud, as if it had smashed into his heart. Auber sensed something and looked back. He saw the crown prince, who was dressed in a black robe, getting off the carriage. His black hair fluttered in the wind, and he looked magnificent. The little fellow's eyes lit up as he hurriedly ran towards him. The corners of Hidden Flower's lips curled up as he thought to himself, as expected of my lord. From the age of 80 to the age of 8, he can charm everyone in the world. Hurry up. Help me extract a strand of his life soul. The little fellow rushed to the crown prince's side and hurriedly grabbed his hand. Hidden Flower thought to himself, this savage bastard. Her eyes didn't light up just now because she was happy to see the crown prince, right? The crown prince naturally interpreted her action of rushing over to grab his hand as a request for a hug and caress. He reached out and picked her up. He rubbed her small head and said with a slightly displeased expression, "What use can such a good-for-nothing be? If you want to use someone, just leave Hidden Flower behind." "Master." Hidden Flower called out exaggeratedly and desperately squeezed out 2 drops of manly tears. Auber turned to glance at Hidden Flower before turning back to the Crown Prince and saying, "He's already crying, so you should keep him for yourself. Don't be so heartless. It's not easy being a subordinate." Hidden Flower and Huifeng both twitched their mouths. Ao Yi, who was hiding in the dark, thought, "Then why did you freaking charge him back then?" Chapter 225. When Nian Kuei saw the Crown Prince, he had already collapsed to the ground, trembling. The other 2 were even worse. After the immobilization talisman's effect was lifted, they fell to their knees one after the other and prostrated themselves on the ground, not daring to raise their heads even an inch. "Your Highness, Your Highness." "Ah!" Nian Kuei screamed and rolled back and forth on the ground while holding his head. Auber reached out to take the soul that the Crown Prince handed over, a strange smile faintly appearing on his lips. "Search him." Xiao Mu expressionlessly gave the order. Without waiting for Stay Up Late to rush out, Hidden Flower and Huifeng scrambled to Nian Kuei's side. They roughly kicked him twice and flipped him over to search him. Soon, a small box was handed over to the little girl. The Crown Prince's phoenix eyes darkened as he stared at the box in the child's hand. "You know their master?" Xiao Mu turned to look at him. These people were obviously working for someone. Since they knew the Crown Prince, they most likely came from Guanlon City. Hui An of the vassal king of Nan's estate. Her ancestors fought alongside the late king and inherited the title of king. The Crown Prince's phoenix eyes darkened, dark clouds covering them. What a great Hui An! He really didn't know that she had brought over a medicinal pill to secretly poison his little Jojo. Auber opened the box and saw a brown pill with an abnormally sweet taste lying inside. He was about to pick it up when the Crown Prince grabbed his hand and stopped him. "It's only a poison pill. It can't harm me." Auber sneered and picked up the pill with his fingers. He sniffed it and snorted in disdain. What a crappy concoction method. After taking it, the poison will enter the body. As you grow older, the cold poison will increase day by day, and your body will deteriorate. In the future, her monthly period would be so painful that she wished she was dead until her body was imperceptibly corroded by the cold poison, making it difficult for her to conceive. The Crown Prince snatched the pill from the child's hand and flicked his finger. Hidden Flower very tacitly slapped Nian Kuei, causing him to open his mouth in pain and catch the poison pill. Huifeng punched him again, causing Nian Kuei to swallow the pill with a gulp before he could react. Auber couldn't help but want to laugh. This poison pill was not of much use to men. Kill those 2 and leave him alive so he can report back. The corners of Auber's lips curled up slightly as he looked meaningfully at Nian Kuei. For some reason, Nian Kuei's body involuntarily trembled as his pupils abruptly shrank due to fear. "Why aren't you scramming?" Hidden Flower killed the 2 little bugs without hesitation and kicked Nian Kuei in the back. Nian Kuei was shocked, and fled in a flurry with injuries all over his body. Seeing the man run away, the Crown Prince lifted the child up and looked at him. "What's your plan?" The child muttered a few words to him. Although he spoke softly, Hidden Flower and the others still heard every word clearly. Then, they all secretly glanced at the child as if they were looking at a little monster. "Will there be trouble?" "No." The Crown Prince laughed heartily. Hidden Flower and the others endured the shock of their jaws dropping to the ground. When they heard the Crown Prince's summons, they hurriedly ran forward and took out a white jade tablet, offering it to the young lady with both hands. What an exquisitely carved communication jade tablet. Auber took it and flipped it to the back. There was a dark red hidden engraved on the back and a black knight engraved on the back. This is the common communication jade tablet of the Hidden Pavilion and Night Pavilion. Just write down whatever you want to know, the Crown Prince said with a smile. Auber nodded and silently put it away. When Hidden Flower handed over a special jade pen, Auber waved her hand. She had the gold-beaded talisman pen, so she naturally didn't need anything else. Hidden Flower glanced at the Crown Prince in confusion. Seeing the Crown Prince nod at him, he put away the jade pen. Chapter 226. Jojo, you've won, so there's a reward. Auber reached out and hugged the brocade box the Crown Prince stuffed into his hands. When he opened it, his gaze was attracted by an ink-colored ring. Without too many garish decorations, this ring quietly laid there. Its lines were very distinct and exuded a unique charm. The child reached out to pick it up and put it on. The ring immediately contracted and very obediently encircled her small hand. "You're a mystic weapon master," Auber said hesitantly. He had wanted to ask last time. Previously, when he was dealing with the zombies, he concentrated all his mystic energy and actually drew out the fire spirit hidden inside the feral. And that fire spirit was extremely similar to the fire spirit the Crown Prince released with a flip of his hand, no matter how he looked at it. Auber guessed that this guy probably fused a trace of the fire spirit into the feral when he forged it. Mo Lien nodded with a smile. "Smart. How about it, won't you try it?" Auber channeled a wisp of mystic energy into the ring. A wisp of light instantly erupted from the ring. Xiao Mu's face was stoic as she looked up at the transparent cover that enveloped her entire body from the top of her head. Her small mouth involuntarily twitched. This guy, he actually made a cover that looked like an eggshell. Now that it covered her entire body, it was just like an egg yolk was wrapped in the eggshell. Mo Lien laughed very unkindly and turned around while hugging the child through the eggshell. He just knew that this defensive cover on the child would definitely be extremely adorable. This defensive cover can currently withstand a powerful attack from a level 12 Mystic Cultivator. However, as your cultivation increases, it will also unseal and continue to increase its defensive power. The little stoic silently removed the eggshell and looked down at the brocade box. This brocade box had a compartment. After removing the top layer, an ink-colored, glowing metallic doll was revealed. "Do I look like I'm still at the age of playing with dolls?" The little stoic silently roared in her heart, and her pair of dark eyes irritably glared at the Crown Prince. "Here, put it on and try." The Crown Prince flipped his palm, revealing a small piece of fluorescent green stone. "This is a spirit stone. Put it in its stomach." The little stoic did as he said, but her face was expressionless. Until... "Greetings, little master." The doll in the box suddenly jumped up and danced as if it had been injected with chicken blood. The child's eyes suddenly widened. He pointed at the little doll that suddenly moved and asked, "What is this? Isn't it fun?" The Crown Prince chuckled and poked the child's face. "This is a mechanical puppet. They could talk to you to relieve your boredom, send you letters, run errands, and inquire about information. The most important thing is that it can," the Crown Prince whispered into the little fellow's ear, "kill people." "Murder? Such a tiny little thing?" Xiao Mu's eyes revealed a look that said, "I can stomp it flat with one foot." The Crown Prince couldn't help but laugh. "Try it. Come." The moment the child jumped down, the golem jumped down as well. It instantly grew to the size of an adult and punched the child's face. Oh my God! It could even grow bigger. This was simply too unconventional. Furthermore, from the looks of it, his strength was comparable to that of a 10th-rank body cultivator. No more fighting, no more fighting. This was simply bullying. The child ran a circle around the field, making Hidden Flower and the others secretly laugh. "Hurry and make it stop." The Crown Prince laughed in spite of himself. "It listens to you." Prince Mo slowly followed the child's short running legs and walked a circle. The child was startled and turned to look at the golem that was chasing after him with large strides. "Stop." Chapter 227. After the Crown Prince carried her into the carriage, the child was a bit drowsy as she lay on his body on the way back. After all, she was still young and was at the age when she liked to sleep. When they arrived at Pear Blossom Alley, the Crown Prince didn't wake her up and directly carried her back to her room. He only greeted Wei Ziqin and Qiao Zhongbong before he left. The couple looked at each other and felt at the same time that they seemed to have gained a son-in-law who could come and go as he pleased. Thus, when the little fellow woke up early the next day, her eyes blinked as she looked at the bedside canopy, unable to react for a moment. "Good morning, little master. Little master, you're so beautiful today. Little master, if you smile, you'll definitely be even more beautiful. Oh my God." Little Arbor tilted his head to the side and glanced at a certain fellow who was bouncing freely next to the pillow. The corners of his mouth involuntarily twitched. Little Qiao Mu reached out to take the little golem and expressionlessly opened its stomach. A certain fellow whimpered, "Little master, you're going to take away my spirit stones. Little master, I'll miss you." "Oh. Shut up." Arbor removed the noisy golem spirit stones, picked up the bag of spirit stones next to the golem, and tossed it into the bag as well. Yesterday, when she was in a daze, she still heard the Crown Prince mutter to her, "This golem consumes quite a lot of spirit stones. It's fine if you send a message or ask for information. But if you transform into battle mode, you'll use up one spirit stone every 2 hours." And it was said that things like spirit stones could not be excavated on Seekong Planet. The Crown Prince actually had something that could not be excavated on Seekong Planet. Little Qiao Mu thought about it and tossed it aside. She had many secrets anyway. The Crown Prince did not ask about the little tree's matter, so she naturally would not ask him about it. After putting on her clothes and putting away the golem and bag of spirit stones, Arbor opened the door and walked out. After taking a breath of fresh air, Arbor walked 2 steps along the corridor and suddenly stopped. She looked coldly at the 2 people whose backs were facing her in the small courtyard. Qiao Zhongbong truly did not expect to be stopped by Wen Ruan so early in the morning. Although the 2 of them kept a certain distance from each other, they still felt a little strange when they saw Miss Wen walking closer step by step in a mysterious manner. "Miss Wen, if you have something to say, just say it." Qiao Zhongbong frowned and took 2 steps back. Wen Ruan smiled gently at Qiao Zhongbong and took out a white jade porcelain bottle from her sleeve. She handed it to him and said with a smile, "Big brother Qiao, there's a meridian healing pill inside. It'll definitely help your damaged mystic meridians greatly if you take it. Who knows, there might even be hope for the recovery of his profound veins." Qiao Zhongbong's eyelids suddenly twitched, and his slightly heated gaze landed on the porcelain bottle in Wen Ruan's hand. "This, Miss Wen, I can't accept a reward without any effort. How can I accept such a valuable gift from you? Big brother Qiao, don't decline. I've always been grateful that you guys took me in, and I've always wanted to repay Big brother Qiao." Wen Ruan smiled gently and said softly, "Big brother Qiao, are you suspecting the origin of my pill? Don't worry. This pill was given to me by a Taoist priest who had the demeanor of a transcendent being. I helped him out a little and he gave it to me. It's definitely not fake, so don't worry, Big brother Qiao." "No, it's not." Qiao Zhongbong awkwardly took a step back and repeatedly waved his hand. "That won't do, that won't do. Miss Wen, I can't accept this pill, I absolutely can't accept it. You better take it back." "Father," Arbor called out normally and interrupted Wen Ruan's words. "The author needs to go out for a bit. Come to the 3rd watch at 7:30 p.m. Chapter 228. Qiao Zhongbong immediately let out a sigh of relief when he saw his daughter and strode over. "Jojo, you're up. Let's go. Your mother and the others should be waiting in the dining room. Let's go." Could it be that in her previous life, Wen Ruan also took out this immortal pill and failed to kidnap father, which made grandmother more determined to let her marry into the family? Was it also because father could recover his mystic meridians and become a mystic cultivator that Wen Ruan was willing to marry him? Otherwise, how could this scheming woman be willing to marry someone else? Later on, she was captured by her friend, and had her limbs broken. She was locked up day and night to study her inner world, so she really did not pay attention to whether her father recovered and became a mystic cultivator in the end. However, these matters from her previous life did not matter. Because Wen Ruan, this possible variable, would be erased, Arbor gave Wen Rawan a thought-provoking gaze. Jump around properly. There's not much time left you. She then turned around and followed her father to the dining room. Wen Rawan inexplicably shuddered and angrily put away the white jade bottle in her hand. She inwardly cursed Xiao Zhongbang for not knowing how to appreciate favors, and angrily followed her father to the dining room. She had not eaten breakfast yet, so she naturally could not bring the children out on an empty stomach. When Wen Rawan reached the dining room, she could not help but stifle her anger. Xiao Zhongbang and Xiao Zhongxing's family were happily eating breakfast and completely treated her as invisible. They did not even bother to greet her. Old Madam happened to say that she was not feeling well again, so breakfast was sent to her room. When Rawan was alone, so she took a bowl and chopsticks and casually ate. The more she ate, the more she found the food tasteless. Today's breakfast was just a pot of plain porridge and steamed buns. She ate until her mouth was almost bland. When Rawan knew Wei Ziqin had a secret because she often saw her fiddling around in the kitchen with the door closed. Soon, she would be able to conjure a lot of delicious meat and poultry. But today's breakfast was too plain. Usually, when she saw Xiao Lin that girl, eating pastries that she had never seen before, she completely didn't know how to share them. She really didn't know how Wei Ziqin raised her daughter. The children she raised were each more selfish and heartless than the other. When Rawan secretly smacked her lips and gently put down the bowl and chopsticks in her hand. No matter how resentful she was, she still wore a very amiable smile on her face. She looked in the direction of Arbor and softly said with a fawning expression, "Jojo, should we go out earlier? We can still stroll around on the way." Xiao Lin held a bun in both hands and took a few bites. Her eyes suddenly lit up as she looked at her elder sister. "What's the flour this time?" Pfft. Xiao Zhongxing laughed unkindly. Arbor also didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He extended his hand toward Xiao Lin and Xiao Lin immediately tilted her small body and pounced toward him. "Mother, father, second uncle, will go out first." Arbor stood up with his little sister in his arms. His small body hugging a little bun didn't seem out of place at all. Instead, it was a little creepy. "Jojo, be careful on the road." Mother rubbed her stomach and looked at the sisters with a smile. "Xiao Hu, pay attention to your two sisters," second uncle instructed with a smile. "Yes, father," Xiao Hu answered hurriedly. Xiao Hu answered excitedly. His heart almost flew out of his chest at the thought of being able to go out and play soon. "Don't worry, master and madam. Xiao Yao will take good care of the young master and young miss." Xiao Yao walked over with a chuckle and stood next to Arbor. Little White Flower also smiled hypocritically at Wei Ziqin. "Sister Ziqin, don't worry." Chapter 229. I'm here to look after the children. Absolutely nothing will happen to them. If something happens, ahaha, Rawan will risk her life to protect the children. When Rawan chuckled to herself and did not notice the other people's expressions. Wei Ziqin and Xiao Zhongbang looked at each other, feeling that something was amiss with her words. Why would she say such ominous words for no reason? Of course nothing will happen to the children. What kind of frightening situation would they encounter if they needed you to protect them with your life? Wei Ziqin frowned, feeling slightly uncomfortable. She nodded indifferently at Little White Flower before looking at her daughters with a smile and watching them leave. Xiao Zhongxing turned to his eldest brother. "Eldest brother, I don't know what's wrong with mother. She even refused to eat breakfast today, saying that she's not feeling well. How about we go check on her?" Xiao Zhongbang nodded and said to his wife, "Ziqin, go back and rest. Second brother and I will go check on mother." Then, the two brothers walked toward Old Madam's room together. Old Madam was still in high spirits last night, so why was she feeling unwell this early in the morning? Their daughters did not refute Old Madam yesterday, so what was there for her to feel unwell about? "Mother! Mother!" The two brothers knocked on the door outside the room. "Mother, can we come in?" Old Madam answered after a while, "Zhongbang Zhongxing, mother is fine. My head just hurts a bit, so I want to sleep a bit more. Don't disturb Mother. The two brothers looked at each other in astonishment. Mother, why did you suddenly have a headache? How about we have Chong Zai go to the medical center in the city and invite a doctor back for Mother? Old Madam Chow hastily said in a slight panic. And no need. No need to trouble yourself. Mother will be fine after sleeping a bit more. All right, you two brothers can go. Mother is fine. Why was Mother acting so strange? Chow Zhongbong and his brother muttered softly before leaving in embarrassment. On the other side, Little White Flower led the four children out and sneaked a glance at Jojo. Jojo, we came out quite early. Where do you want to go? The four children remained silent. Arbor remained silent and expressionless. Jolin, who was in her arms, was munching on half a bun and ignoring everyone else. Xiao Yao lowered her head and followed her mistress. Since her mistress didn't say anything, she naturally wouldn't say anything. Chow, who looked around and didn't hear what the Little White Flower was saying. The four children were so uncooperative that Little White Flower gritted her teeth in anger. Once again, she secretly cursed the Chow family for not knowing how to raise children. The group of four walked out of Pear Blossom Alley and headed towards the main street. The lively atmosphere that greeted them made Chow, whose eyes turned back and forth. He didn't even have the time to watch the fun, let alone listen to Little White Flower's nagging. Sister, this time. Little Lin pointed at a stall with her chubby little finger and yelled. Abba looked back and saw a stall selling silk flowers. He couldn't help but be amused by this little girl. You're not allowed to eat. Eat half of the bun in your hand. You're not allowed to eat before dinner. Look at how round your stomach is after eating so much. In this day and age, the rice and grains sold on the streets were more expensive than gold. How could they set up a stall selling fine snacks if they couldn't even afford to eat coarse grains? Little Lin pouted and silently continued to munch on her bun. When Rowan scooted over to the sisters and reached out to Chow Mu ingratiatingly. Chow, Xiao Lin is quite heavy, right? You must be tired from carrying her. How about I carry her for a while? No need. Abba dodged and walked forward with little Lin in his arms. Chapter 230. When Rowan suppressed a trace of anger in her eyes as she roared inwardly, "You're just like your dad. You don't know how to appreciate favors." If it weren't for the fact that the Chow family was well off and didn't have to worry about food and clothing, she wouldn't have bothered fawning over them like a little wife. She just didn't want to go back to that lousy place in the Western District to suffer. Arbor walked in front with Xiao Lin in his arms, and the corners of his lips curled up slightly. As the sun gradually rose, the flow of people on the main street increased. Many people walked toward the Thousand Flowers Plaza in groups. I think Landlord Lee's flower will win first place in the competition. That's right. Even those rich and powerful families are rushing to participate in this Thousand Flowers Festival. Poor commoners like us won't be able to make a living. I think we can forget about that 50 kilograms of rice. Everyone discussed in low voices, and quite a few people sighed. Don't worry. I heard there's also an incentive prize for 200 participants. Each person can get a kilogram of beans. But we'll have to rely on the number plate in our hands to draw a prize. We have to hurry and get a matching number plate. Oh, that's great. Right. Let's hurry and get a plate. But why did the city lord let those filthy fellows from the eastern and western districts in and fight with us for the number plates? Arbor walked toward the entrance of the plaza where the number plates were distributed. Since they came out to play, they naturally had to put on a show. The number plates were a pair of thin, specially made bamboo slips with numbers carved on the back with a knife. The line was very long, but the number plates were distributed quickly, so it wasn't long before it was their turn. Arbor's children each took a pair. When they flipped it open, they saw that their number was already over 5,000. Little sister, do you think I'll get a kilogram of beans? As Chow Hu spoke, the adults next to him couldn't help but snicker. Little brother, it all depends on luck. Say, There are at least 10,000 people participating in this event in the entire city. It sounds like 200 participants are quite a lot, but compared to the total number of participants, the winning ratio really isn't high. Chow Hu nodded. You're right, uncle. It all depends on luck. It'd be great if I could get a kilogram of beans. Hey kid, who doesn't want a caddy of beans? I still want to take that caddy of beans. Maybe I'll be lucky enough to get it. My face is white. Chow Hu raised his head and snorted. Arbor was speechless. Bro, you don't need a pound of beans. You look so expectant, and you're even arguing with a stranger. She felt that she might be very poor. Seriously, it felt so annoying to bring a bunch of clowns out on the streets. All kinds of flowers and plants were placed along the street, circling around the main street to the plaza. It was extremely crowded and bustling. As the sun approached noon, the people who were watching the flowers began to cast their cards. They cast one card and kept the other. It was said that there would be people in the city lord's mansion working overnight to count the number of the winners. The winners would only be announced the next day. At that time, as long as they were the winners, they would be able to line up at the city lord's mansion to receive food with a number plate. Arbor held little Lin in his arms as they walked. From time to time, he would take down his sister's outstretched hand that was asking for a flower. Suddenly, Chow Mu's footsteps paused in front of a flower pot that resembled a begonia, and she blinked. The old man who was arranging the flower pot was so happy that he almost jumped out. Kid, cast your card. Do you like it? Quickly cast your card for this old man. It was a pity that it had been on display for an entire afternoon, but only a few people had cast their cards. The old man was about to cry. How could he win a prize like this? The whole family was waiting for the rice to boil at home. Old grandpa, are you selling this flower pot? Arbor's little face was expressionless, but his dark eyes were brighter than ever. Chapter 231. The old man was startled. He examined the children in front of him and saw that they were dressed in bright and beautiful clothes. They should be the children of some wealthy family in the city. He hesitantly asked, "Sell? What's the price?" If the child wanted to give him any gold or silver, he naturally would not sell it. 50 caddies of rice in exchange for your pot of flowers. Are you selling? Arbor asked softly. 50 caddies of rice? The old man's loud voice immediately attracted the attention of a group of people. Originally, not many people paid attention to them, but now that the 50 caddies of rice was mentioned, they immediately surrounded them. Arbor did not like crowds, so he frowned and said, "Grandpa, are you selling or not? 50 caddies of rice in exchange." Of course, of course. His family had a large population, and the monthly allowance from the city lord's estate was not enough to feed them. Even if they lived frugally and ate porridge every day, the food would only last them for 20 days. They would have to think of other ways to feed themselves. The food at home was about to run out, and now the child asked for 50 caddies of rice in exchange. How could the old man refuse? "Then come with me," Arbor said to the old man indifferently. He turned around and led the old man to a tea house on the side of the street. This tea house was actually empty. They could not even fill their stomachs these days. Who would have the leisure and mood to come here like an idiot to drink tea and talk about swords? Arbor randomly picked a private room and walked in. He said softly, "Stop them outside." Yes, Mississippi immediately appeared and blocked the crowd who wanted to rush in with a murderous expression. "Miss has ordered that no one is allowed inside." "I'm not an outsider. Let me in. I'm a relative of your Mississippi." When Rawan wanted to squeeze in but was blocked and pushed by Aoye's extended arm. When Rawan staggered back several steps and was immediately pushed to the back by the crowd. She was so angry that her face turned pale and her lips trembled. He stood at the half-open door of the tea house and said coldly, "No one is allowed inside. Otherwise you will be killed without mercy." Everyone immediately took a few big steps back. They all looked at the black-clothed youth with disbelief in their eyes. Wasn't he just curious and wanted to see if the little girl could take out so much food? He didn't need to kill anyone. A middle-aged woman curled her lips in disdain and said, "I think this child is either crazy or lying. In this kind of day, who would use precious 50 catties of rice to exchange for a pot of useless flowers that can only be admired? My little sister loves to eat flowers." Chow, who stood at the entrance of the tea-house and angrily shouted at the woman, "What do these people know? Eldest younger sister was so powerful. She must have her own reasons for doing this." A group of onlookers liked to spew nonsense when they had nothing to do. Yes, the second flower. Xiao Lin was pulled to Chow, whose side, and nodded her little head in agreement. Everyone was speechless. Not long after, the old man happily walked out with a big bag of rice. The weight of the 50 kilograms of rice made him bend over, but his face was glowing, and he felt strong all over. Abba slowly walked out and temporarily put the pot of begonia-like flowers into the storage talisman. When everyone saw the old man come out with a bag of rice on his back, their eyes immediately widened. God, the old man really exchanged that pot of flowers for 50 catties of rice. Is it true? Little girl, your little sister likes to eat flowers. I have flowers too. I'll sell them to you. It's not expensive. I only want 40 catties of rice. Get lost. Child, buy mine. Buy mine. I'll give you 30 catties. 30 catties of rice in exchange. Chapter 232. What's up with these people? Abba stood at the entrance of the tea-house in a daze and frowned as he watched a group of people holding flower pots and squeezing toward her. Too noisy. He pulled out his 3-foot-long sword with a whoosh, scaring the crowd that was fighting to sell flowers and causing them to hastily retreat like the tide. It's so hard to run a small business. Why do people have to point their swords at me? When Rowan was the one who was about to explode from anger. She was pushed and shoved further and further away from the tea-house by the barbaric crowd. She had just called out, "Chow Chow," when she suddenly felt a weight on her shoulder. Someone held her down. "How dare you?" When Rowan angrily rebuked and turned to look at that lecher. In her enlarged eyes, a wrinkled face with completely dead skin suddenly appeared. That thing suddenly grinned and gave her a smile. With a plop, a piece of rotten meat fell from his chin. When Rowan's hair stood on end. "Ah!" She let out an earth-shattering scream and turned to run toward the crowd while trembling all over. "Corpse puppet! The corpse puppet is here! Save me! Save me!" The crowd that was squeezing in front immediately dispersed to the sides in tacit understanding. Who cared if she lived or died? They all turned around and ran away with pale faces, dragging their families with them. They stopped selling flowers and could no longer watch the show. Everyone ran back home in fear of their own safety. However, they soon realized that something was amiss. This corpse puppet seemed to be chasing after that unlucky girl. It didn't even look at them. Coincidentally, a fat woman was running in a panic and didn't look where she was going. She crashed into someone's stall and couldn't get up. The corpse puppet passed by her like the wind and didn't even look at her out of the corner of its eye. The fat woman originally thought she was going to die. Her face was pale with fright, and her mouth was trembling so much that she couldn't even speak. When she saw the corpse puppet running away, she opened her mouth wide in shock, her eyes filled with disbelief. Everyone hid on both sides of the street. The braver ones stopped and almost laughed out loud when they saw what was happening. This corpse puppet was really amusing. It didn't catch anyone and just chased after that girl. As it ran, it hissed and roared, scaring the girl so much that she rolled and crawled all over the street. She kept running forward like a headless fly. "It's Antoine." Chow, who was stunned as he stood at the entrance of the tea-house. "Xiao Yao, you keep an eye on the two of them. I'll go and see what happened to Antoine." Abba's eyes flashed when he read the two words, Antoine. Xiao Yao held back her laughter and nodded. She reached out and took Xiao Lin-er's little hand. Why is that girl running towards Autumn Moon Garden? That place is just a 7-story opera house. It's so empty that there's nowhere to hide. Quickly report to the city lord that a corpse puppet has broken into the city. Ah! 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 Save me! Save me! Save me! When Rowan begged the passers-by for help with a face full of terror. However, every time she touched a passer-by, they would fling her hand away in a panic and continuously retreat, opening up a very wide path for her and the corpse puppet. Roar, roar, roar. The corpse puppet that couldn't catch up to her for a long time roared furiously and suddenly increased its speed to chase after her. When Rowan resisted the urge to faint and stumbled into the garden. She stumbled and crawled into the pavilion and ran up the stairs while holding onto the handrail. After running up 3 floors and not even the 4th, she was completely exhausted. She leaned against the handrail and panted heavily. Suddenly, a small and smooth hand grabbed her wrist, startling her into reflexively flinging her hand away and screaming. Chapter 233. Antoine, it's me. Auber's unique soft voice rang in her ears, rousing when Rowan's spirits. Jojo, Jojo, save me. Hurry and save me. When Rowan grabbed Auber's wrist tightly like a drowning person grabbing onto a piece of driftwood, she said tearfully, "Why, you're a mystic cultivator. You can definitely save my Jojo. Am I right?" Roar, roar, roar. The roar of a zombie came from below the building at the right time. The background music was really quite good. Auber's lips twitched. She grabbed Rowan and said anxiously, "Antoine, let's run. I can't beat this monster. It's so strong." When Rowan's heart sank bit by bit. She had overestimated Xiao Mu, this D*MN lass. But then again, she was only a 7-year-old child. Even if she was a mystic cultivator, how high could her cultivation be? Facing a strong zombie, the child would definitely not be able to deal with it. If the zombie caught up to her later, then she... A vicious and sinister glint flashed through Rowan's eyes. She could not die no matter what. For the sake of his own life, he could only push Xiao Mu, this D*MN lass, out as a shield when the time came. Who told her to come here and court death? It was all because of... her. She... found... her. At the brink of death, when Rowan relied on her survival instincts and climbed to the top floor of the theater building breathlessly. She was as tired as a dead dog as she lay on the railing, panting heavily. There was a tall trellis on the top floor of the theater building, and it was surrounded by a carved fence. Usually, the audience would sit in the elegant pavilion across the street to drink tea and listen to music. They would only sit in the open air when the weather was good. When Rowan panted heavily as she clung to the railing. Looking down from above, she felt dizzy and could not stand steadily. She hastily turned around and leaned against the railing. She gripped the railing so tightly that her fingers turned slightly white. Is it catching up to us? Huff, 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 huff. When Rowan was sweating profusely and panting non-stop. Due to the intense running, her heart felt like it was going to jump out of her chest. It was extremely uncomfortable. I don't think so. The child looked at her calmly, his voice very calm. Not to mention panting loudly, the child's unchanging stoic face didn't even have the slightest change in emotion. It was expressionless as usual. When Rowan seemed to have realized something, and her pupils abruptly contracted. She gripped the railing tightly with both hands and stared at the child vigilantly. Why you? Wasn't this child a little too calm? When Rowan felt a slight tremble from her soul to her body as she stared into the depths of those emotionless eyes. A terrifying emotion rapidly spread through her heart. Cough, cough, cough. When Rowan choked on a mouthful of air and coughed loudly. Jojo, why you? Huff, huff, huff. Why do you have a way to deal with that zombie below? Don't lie to Antoine. I don't have a way. The child slowly walked toward her. Tap, tap, tap. Every small step seemed to land on Rowan's heart, causing her heart to palpitate and her eyelids to twitch non-stop. At this moment, a roar came from the top floor. When Rowan's nerves were stretched taut, she sternly yelled at Jojo, "Jojo, Come to me quickly. It's coming, it's coming. Damn it, this child seemed too calm. She had to have him firmly in her hands. She heard that zombies wouldn't pay attention to other people when they were focused on eating a person's corpse. Chapter 234. Ant 1, you're not trying to push me to death so you can run away yourself, right? Chow Mu suddenly stopped in her tracks. She tilted her head and looked at the woman who was as gentle as water with a strange expression. When Rawan's heart skipped a beat. She tried her best to maintain her composure, but she stuttered, how is that possible? Why would Ant 1 do that? Heh. The child's voice was faint. His soft voice rose slightly at the end with an inexplicable meaning. When Rawan gulped and waved at the child with a mocking smile. Jojo, come here. Come to Ant 1's side. Do you still remember that before Ant 1 left, I promised your parents that no matter what happened, I would guarantee the safety of you and your siblings? Oh, right. Why, yes. When Rawan feigned embarrassment with a smile and urged Chow Mu, Then come over, Chow Chow. Don't worry, even if Ant 1 has to risk her life, I will definitely protect you, Chow Chow. Ant 1, you're such a good person. Arbor nodded and patted to her side, looking as though he was a good person. When Rawan suddenly grabbed Arbor's wrist and held it tightly in her palm. Arbor could not help but be slightly surprised by the strength of her grip. It turned out that a normal person could also explode with a powerful force when their life was in danger. Bang! A rotting figure suddenly stepped onto the stage in the middle and howled at Rawan. When Rawan's face instantly turned pale from fright. She tightly grabbed Arbor's wrist and subconsciously pulled him in front of her to shield her. Jojo, don't be scared. I'll feed you to the zombie later. It'll only hurt a bit when it bites you, but you'll soon lose all feeling. For my life, I can only sacrifice you, you'd *mn girl. Every man for himself. Don't blame me for being vicious. When Rawan's eyes widened, she abruptly discovered that her body was forcefully pushed by someone, causing her to fall backward against the railing. What happened? She was caught off guard and never thought that the child in her arms would have such evil intentions towards her. He actually knew. Strike first and gain the upper hand. He was the first to reach out his demonic claws and ruthlessly push her chest. Her body uncontrollably fell flat on the ground. No, her entire body flipped backward and fell out of the railing. No. That's impossible. What's outside the railing? The 7-story theater was several zhong high. If an ordinary person were to fall from it, they would definitely die. The last thing when Rawan saw was the little girl's pair of pitch-black pupils that were as cold as knives. Miss Wen's horrified expression was written all over her face. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her eyes were filled with 3 words. Why? She had struggled so hard in this world, bitterly seeking survival. She had worked so hard, yet she still could not ask for the mercy of the heavens. Why did he want to kill her? Why did the child want her dead? She was just an ordinary person. What did her being alive do to the child? As she screamed and fell, she clearly saw a faint smile in the child's eyes. Smile? The child was smiling. She was laughing at her stupidity. She was laughing at her scheming, but in the end, she still died. She hated it. She really hated it. Ah. When Rawan fell straight down from the 7-story theater, without any suspense, she was restrained by the Earth's core and landed on the ground with a bang. Her limbs were stiff and spread out. When Rawan stared at the sky with her eyes wide open. However, she could no longer see anything in that instant. A smear of dark red blood slowly spread out from the back of her head. Chapter 235. Ant 1. Chow Mu softly repeated these 3 words, her tone containing an unusual playfulness. You don't understand why? You don't need to understand. You only need to know that I don't need you to participate in my future life. If you had obediently stayed far away from me, I could have let you off. However, since you foolishly wanted to approach me, then I can only let you die. I don't mind staining my hands with your blood because you owed me in your previous life. Karma is a cycle of retribution. Since the heavens chose not to take revenge, then I'll personally take care of you, this scourge. Abba stood in front of the railings and looked ahead with a serene gaze. The afterglow of dusk dyed the distant sky red, which contrasted well with the blood-red color in front of him. Her small body was abruptly lifted up horizontally. Only she knew how tense her body was, but it slightly relaxed under this oppressive warmth. "Clean it up," the Crown Prince said, and left with the child without looking back. Hidden Flower, who was standing on the platform and facing the mirror to tidy up his messy hair and rotting flesh, sighed when he heard the Crown Prince's words. "I didn't expect that not only would I have to pretend to be a zombie, but I would also have to chase after a woman on the streets. Now, I have to stay behind to clean up the mess. Being a subordinate was such a bitter life." Hidden Flower lifted his sleeve and smelled the stench. He almost fainted from the stench. It must have been hard on the youth, Hidden Current, to pretend to be a zombie for so many days and dress up like this every day. It was truly smelly to death. Ah! Hidden Flower let out a series of zombie roars, and screamed until his throat was hoarse, attracting a crowd. Ahem ahem ahem. Pooh, I have to ask the Crown Prince for a few throat-soothing pills when I get home. My throat hurts from screaming. Unfortunately, after the youth roared for so long, how could the commoners dare to come and court death? They heard there were zombies in the theater, so who dared to barge in? Fortunately, someone went to inform City Lord Goo. City Lord Goo didn't come slowly. By the time he gathered a group of people and rushed over with an unsightly expression, almost an hour had passed. Not long after everyone stepped into the sparse garden, they saw Wen Rawan lying on the ground in front of the opera house. She died with remaining grievances. City Lord Goo and the others were shocked for a second. Many of them pointed their weapons at corpse Wen Rawan, afraid that she would jump out and become a zombie in the next second. After waiting for a long time without any response, City Lord Goo's face darkened as he waved his hand and said, "Go and search everywhere. Let's see if that zombie is still in the garden." Of course, he ended up with nothing. Hidden Flower wasn't stupid. After attracting people over, he slipped away. "City Lord, what do we do with this young lady?" Zhang Yan felt that the corpse woman looked familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had seen her before. After all, he dealt with so many people entering the city in a day. How could he remember everyone? "I have to burn it quickly, in case it turns into a zombie." City Lord Goo made a prompt decision. "Send someone to check her identity after burning it. We have to send a message to her family." After City Lord Goo finished speaking, he sighed. These days, he saw people die every day. City Lord Goo could be considered to be used to it. Zhang Yan nodded after hearing that. He directed a few brawny men to put the young lady into a corpse bag and transport her away. A fire burned Wen Rawan, burning everything to ashes. Something absent-mindedly flashed past Xiao Mu's eyes. She quietly stood on top of an arched bridge, her eyes fixated on the trickling water below the bridge. She flipped her small hand slightly, and a white jade porcelain bottle lay quietly in her palm. "I'm a bit late today because the author wants to update 5 times in a row. The author is going to slowly massage my neck now. See you tomorrow, babies." Chapter 236. This was the pill she stole from Wen Rawan. Apparently, it could help heal damaged mystic meridians. However, after Abba repeatedly examined it, he discovered that it was only a normal meridian pill. It could only mediate the normal meridians in the body after consumption. It could not heal damaged mystic meridians like Wen Rawan said. Thus, strictly speaking, it was basically useless to her father. She remembered Wen Rawan saying that the pill was gifted to her by a wandering Taoist priest. That sounded untrue no matter how she listened to it. However, none of this mattered anymore because a person's death was like an extinguished lamp. Everything was no longer important. Splash! The small white jade bottle was thrown into the water, and it slowly sank into the water. Emolienne grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the bottom of the bridge. You should feel better after being exposed to the wind for so long. Don't you think I'm cruel? The child lowered her head and kicked a small pebble at the tip of her foot. Emolienne squeezed her hand with a smile. When I was 8 years old, I killed a personal nanny who took care of me and implicated many people. At the time, Royal Father ordered them all to be executed. Do you think I'm cruel? She harmed you. The little fellow raised her chin and stared at the youth with her pitch-black eyes. That's right. She poisoned me and was discovered. At the time, she begged me and knelt on the ground, crying and shouting. She told me from when I was 3 years old to when I was 7. She kept on confessing that she used to take care of me so attentively. Emolienne absent-mindedly raised her head and glanced at the distant night. I didn't forgive her. Moreover, I personally executed her. I used to respect her a lot. She was a woman who looked very benevolent. She deserved to die, Chow Chow said coldly. You didn't do anything wrong. What right did a traitor have to cry and shout in front of you? If it were me, I would have made her beg for death. That so-called friend from her previous life better pray to the gods and Buddha that he didn't appear in front of her. Otherwise, she wouldn't let him go. Are you going back? The child tugged at Prince Mo's hand. I'm not busy. I can stay for a few more days. Hui Feng, who was secretly following them in the dark, quietly exchanged a glance with Aoi. In the past 2 days, impeachment letters had been sent to the Queen like snowflakes. The matter of the Crown Prince abandoning state affairs and running away in the middle of the night had even startled the Queen Dowager. How could she be as indifferent as a certain master said? Emolienne suddenly picked up the child and sniffed her tiny neck. Why do you have a stench on you? Abba. He really wanted to slap this guy to death. Wasn't the stench caused by him? It's your subordinate's stench. Your subordinate passed the stench to me. The child rolled his eyes. When he thought of how Hidden Flower had disguised himself as a zombie and chased after them, the corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. Then I'll go back and punish him later. I'll help you vent your anger, okay? The Crown Prince said with a straight face. Abba couldn't help but be curious and looked up at him. What do you plan on punishing him for? Making him disguise himself as a zombie for half a month and not allowing him to bathe. What do you think of this method? Emolienne lowered her head and winked at the child. Aoi and Hui Feng, who were secretly following them, both felt their feet slip. They deeply sympathized with the captain of the hidden pavilion. The child's eyes immediately turned round. Then he's not allowed to appear in front of me again. Otherwise, she might faint from the stench. Chapter 237. Okay. The Crown Prince immediately nodded. This pair of heartless people decided Hidden Flower's tragic fate for the next half a month with just a few sentences. Aoi and Hui Feng looked at each other and both observed a moment of silence for Hidden Flower. Today is the Thousand Flower Festival. It's rare for it to be so lively, but the good atmosphere was ruined, Abba lamented in a small voice. The two of them walked down the street. The ground was littered with flowers, and there was not a single person in sight. The crowd must have been scared back home. Isn't this pretty good? You like peace and quiet, and I also like this kind of peaceful atmosphere. Emolienne smiled. The ground is littered with flowers, the little fellow muttered. She lay on the youth's shoulder and looked up at the night sky. It's ugly. Only a ray of moonlight faintly shone down. The moonlight was warm. Emolienne chuckled and pointed up. Isn't it easy to see flowers? Look over there. Under the moonlight in the distance, a shower of flowers spun up. Colorful petals fluttered down, and it was as if they were performing a beautiful flower dance under the night sky. A few petals were blown by the night wind and stuck to the child's upturned face. The night sky had been replaced by the brilliance of luminous pearls. Red, yellow, pink, and green petals fluttered in the air. "It's beautiful." The child's unbreakable frozen face showed signs of cracking. Her lips tugged into an uncoordinated smile, and she subconsciously reached out to grab the falling petals. This truly was the Thousand Flower Festival, not just in name but also in reality. The gloominess brought about by when Rawan's death was completely swept away now. "For you." The youth handed a small box adorned with round purple gems to the child. The child opened the box and saw that it was not jewelry but a box full of colorful petals. The fragrance assailed her nostrils. For a moment, her heart was touched, and a warm ray of sunlight seemed to shine into the darkest corner of her heart. "You stink. I'll let you smell it when you take a bath at home," the youth said with a serious expression. F***ck. The sunlight is gone. My feelings and what-not were all fed to the dogs. You're the stinky one. The child slammed the box shut and turned his head with a biting expression. Emolien chuckled and walked through a sea of flowers with the child in his arms. His figure gradually disappeared into the night. By the time Arbor was carried back to the original street by the youth, the siblings met up, and the children were sent home by the Crown Prince. It was almost late at night. Qiao Zhongbong, his wife, and second Uncle Qiao had been waiting anxiously for a long time and couldn't sit still. Second Uncle Qiao had even gone out to search and brought back the bad news of a zombie attack on the streets. Just as the family was about to go out and search again, the children came back. Wei Ziqin heaved a sigh of relief. She reached out to pull her eldest daughter over and asked worriedly, "Child, are you all right? Is it true that a zombie sneaked into the city?" "It's true." Arbor nodded. "That zombie attacked Aunt One." "I'm sorry, Mother. I chased after Aunt One but couldn't find her. The zombie might have chased her far away. I was worried about Shaolin, so I went back to look for them. I didn't continue to chase after Aunt Wen." Wei Ziqin shuddered with fear. Only then did Qiao Zhongbong and second Uncle Qiao realize that when Rawan did not come back with them. The family hastily thanked the Crown Prince for escorting the children back. His Highness the Crown Prince naturally gained a favorable impression in front of the Qiao family. Chapter 238. Mother, I'm useless. I couldn't save Aunt Wan, Qiao Mu said expressionlessly. Fortunately, this child was used to being expressionless all year round. Otherwise, she probably wouldn't be able to pretend to feel guilty or something. Silly child. The adults continuously imagined the scene of the child, chasing with all her might but turning back helplessly. They all comforted her. "Silly girl, how old are you? It's already good that you can protect yourself." "That's right." Father said emotionally, "It's good that you all came back safely." Second Uncle Qiao sighed and concluded, "Life is hard to predict. This is also fate. Miss One is too unlucky. She even said some inauspicious things when she went out, and in the end." The child's face was expressionless, but she actually wanted to laugh in her heart. Qiao Zhongbong and the others comforted her again before sending off the Crown Prince with a smile. They hurriedly let the children wash up and rest. In the side room, Arbor leaned over the bathtub and flipped through the jeweled box filled with flower petals. She snorted softly and pouted. Lifting up a few petals and sprinkling them on the water, Arbor kicked her small feet in the water. She raised her small hands slightly, and a blue talisman quietly floated in front of her. She took out the pot of flowers from the storage talisman and placed it on the round stool beside the bathtub. Arbor's small hand held a pair of small scissors horizontally. "Cho-Cho, are you asleep?" Arbor approached the flower with the scissors and cut off one of the flower buds. She peeled off the petals one by one, revealing the light green stamen. There were a dozen small green beads on the small stamen. They were small and round, and their skin was soft. They couldn't be pinched and could only be taken lightly. They looked very delicate. Arbor's movements were light and fast. She took these small green beads one by one and placed them all on one of the petals. "Can you tell me how I know that this isn't a begonia at all?" It's a medicinal plant called the green radish flower. Abba reached out and gently fiddled with the small beads. Every budding green radish flower has a dozen green radish seeds in its stamen. The poison pills made from this will be thousands of times stronger than the poison pill that the young miss of the prince's mansion gave me. Abba raised his head, the corners of his mouth slightly curved as he stared at the pot of radish flowers. Other than the flower bud that she had taken away, there were 3 or 4 smaller ones in the pot. Other than that, the large blooming flowers had already lost their medicinal value. Cho-Cho, did I really learn medical skills from someone? Why can't I remember? Abba's small hand stirred the water in the tub. His voice was a little low, and for some reason, his chest felt a little stuffy. Little Master, Cho-Cho only remembers that you've memorized countless medical and poison books such as the 10,000 Poison Holy Scroll. Your master is actually very powerful. However, because Little Mistress had traveled through time and space to be reborn, a large portion of your power had been sealed, which caused a portion of your memories to be lost. If Cho-Cho could appear in front of Little Chow right now, it would definitely have a serious expression on its face. Little Mistress, after you were sealed, Cho-Cho was actually the most pitiful one. What the heck was with this sudden change in style and crying tone? Cho-Cho used a very, very, very long time to accumulate that little bit of power. It wasn't easy for me to grow 2 leaves. Luckily, after Little Mistress was sealed, those 2 gluttons were also sealed on the main planet. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to keep my 2 leaves. I remember you said that your leaves can not only increase one's perception of mystic energy, but also strengthen the body and extend the lifespan of ordinary people. The sapling shuddered in his dantian, feeling that something bad was about to happen. Chapter 239. Cho-Cho leaves. Ha ha ha. Master, actually, after you were sealed, Cho-Cho's memories also became incomparably chaotic. That's why I sometimes remember something, and sometimes I don't remember anything. Cho-Cho awkwardly tried to change the topic. Furthermore, Master probably doesn't know. The items in your inner world that you can see with your naked eyes are only a small part of it. Your inner world hasn't been fully opened, so you can't really use it right now. Furthermore, compared to the resources on your main planet, even if your inner world is fully opened, the items on your main planet are only a drop in the ocean. Cho-Cho sighed with emotion. Abba chuckled. Don't try to say such strange things. Forcefully changing the topic. Cho-Cho, give me the leaves. Little Master, believe me, Cho-Cho is telling the truth. If Little Master can reach rank 7 cultivation now, Cho-Cho can immediately help you integrate the Heart of Paradise into the Star Domain. In the future, Little Master won't have to go through so much trouble and have to take out the Heart of Paradise every time you want to store something. Furthermore, you can enter Paradise Planet yourself. After blabbering on and on, Abba's large eyes widened slightly, and he roared, Leaves! Leaves! Woo-woo-woo! Cho-Cho shook its bare branches as it watched its only 2 leaves being snatched away by its unscrupulous little master. Ah, it felt a chill in its heart. Abba crawled out of the water and carelessly wiped himself clean before putting on his inner clothes. He lowered his head to look at the 2 lush green leaves in his palm and asked softly, Cho-Cho, can I still see Master? I'm afraid that's very difficult. I only remember that your soul was unstable at that time. If you continued to stay by your master's side, you would have completely disappeared. That's why I remember your master and your martial uncle. It was your master and martial uncle who borrowed the power of space-time to send you back. So the reason I was reborn here was actually by master and martial uncle's doing? And before that, as a soul, I wandered the world for who knows how many years. Abba suddenly reached out to grab the inner clothes in front of his chest, feeling some pain in his heart that made him unable to breathe. Ah, those years of wandering, just what kind of important thing have I forgotten? My master? What's my master's name? Abba asked uneasily as he sat on the edge of the bed. What is my name? My little disciple still doesn't know her master's name? A figure suddenly jumped in through the window. Under the faint moonlight, She gave her a very beautiful smile. Master naturally calls you Morong Soon. Arber was dumbfounded. Wasn't Morong Soon's arrival too coincidental? Her reply was also especially smooth and seamless. Little disciple, what's with your expression? Aren't you happy to see your master? Morong Soon flashed in front of her and picked up this soft and cuddly child. She chuckled and said, "You truly are a little rascal. We haven't seen each other for so long, but you didn't miss your master at all?" "Master, we've been back from Qinghe town for several days. It was eldest senior sister who said you didn't know where you went for a stroll, and it was you who abandoned the disciples." The little stoic replied. Morong Soon did not feel awkward at all. Instead, she guffawed and rubbed the child's stoic face. "Disciple, Master and your senior sisters are going back to the sect tomorrow. Do you want to come with us?" Abba was silent for a moment before saying, "Sorry, Master." This disciple was willful. "I want to wait until mother gives birth to a younger brother or sister before I go back to the sect." Morong Soon pinched the child's face with a smile. "Child, why are you so old? At your age, this is the time to be willful and reckless. Don't worry, you can be willful as much as you want. Master is here for everything." Chapter 240. Master. Abba turned her small head to look at her. "Why do you keep pinching my face?" Morong Soon said matter-of-factly, "You have facial paralysis, so Master will pinch it for you to see when your face can become more lively." "Abba." Morong Soon chuckled and placed the child on a stool. She pulled out a map from her sleeve and stuffed it into the child's hands. "Do you know 5 Moon City? It's quite far from Mo Kingdom. You have to leave the northern part of planet Seekong and head west to the Great Snow Mountain outside 5 Moon City. That's our Holy Water Sect's headquarters. Although many countries exist side by side in the northern part, Mo Kingdom is very powerful and has basically unified the northern part, so the northern part won't be too chaotic. The western part is different. The tribes and clans in the western part mostly fight each other, and there are all kinds of chaotic battles every day. I'm afraid there are also many mutated zombies." Morong Soon stroked the child's confused face. "How about Master leave someone here to wait for you? I'll bring you back to the sect when the time comes." Abba hastily shook her head. She was not a real 7-year-old child and needed an adult to accompany her to school. Moreover, 2 months of time was neither long nor short, so why should she delay her senior sister's cultivation time? "You little girl, didn't Master say you could be willful and act spoiled with Master at any time? You're so sensible that even Master's heart aches when I see you." Morong Soon reached out to rub the child's icy face. "When you go to the sect to cultivate this time, you'll have to let go of everything in the secular world. You won't be able to return home for at most 8 to 10 years, or at least 3 to 5 years. It's good that you stay for a few more days. You can properly say goodbye to your family and have a good talk with your parents." "Okay." Abba nodded obediently. "There's an extremely rich mystical treasured land on our sect's snow mountain. The mystic energy there is so dense that you can't imagine it. I believe you'll like it a lot, my disciple. Hurry and come, okay? Silly disciple, don't make Master wait too long." After Morong Soon finished giving her instructions, she finally finished pinching her petite face and elegantly slipped through the window. Before she left, she even left behind a seductive sentence. Seriously, Morong Soon was definitely doing this on purpose. What treasured land with unimaginable mystic energy density. My ass, it made people's hearts flutter. Master Silver, let's go now." Mystical treasured land. Just the sound of it was amazing. His profound energy was definitely very, very thick and enormous. "I want to suck, 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 suck." Chochio's exaggerated cries rang out in her mind. "Shut up, don't make so much noise. I'll bring you there in 2 months. Chow Mu tiredly opened her mouth and gave a small yawn. After a busy night, she truly couldn't take it anymore. She climbed onto the bed and rolled into the thin blanket, wrapping her small body like a cicada cocoon. Even her small head was tucked into the thin blanket, leaving only her black hair hanging outside. Aubrey closed her eyes. Her forehead, which was buried in the thin blanket, glistened with beads of sweat. In reality, there was no need to wrap herself so tightly in this hot weather. However, she was used to it and felt that the tighter she wrapped herself, the more secure she felt. At noon the next day, Aubrey was woken up by the warm sunlight falling on her eyes. The child wrapped in the thin blanket was drenched in sweat. She flung the blanket off her body and got up. After washing up and changing into a clean and fresh set of clothes, Aubrey went down the attic. She actually slept until noon. It looked like she really was tired yesterday. Her physical exhaustion was secondary, but the most important thing was her mental exhaustion. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.